And she be giving me the hard chapters. I don't know what she be on, y'all. Oh my gosh, the authority of prayer. I beg your finest pardon. So we are moving along. We are right now at chapter 3 in the book that we are reading, which is, and you have to excuse me, I am always a student at the end of the day. Dr. Miles Monroe, Understanding the Purpose and Power of Prayer. Um, it has been a really great moment for me to be able to reread this book. I've had it forever because Dr. Miles Monroe is like one of my favorite teachers of the gospel. So when she said we were doing this book, I'm like, oh my God, I got to go order the new one. I can't find my old one. And so I went and ordered it again. And she was like, I was going to order it for you. I was like, too late. I already got it. Thank you. And so I'm really having a really good time reading it again. It's been a really long time since I looked at it. But we are on chapter 3. And chapter 3 talks about the authority of prayer. The authority of prayer. And so far, we've talked about, we've just been setting up, understanding what prayer is and why we need it. And so tonight we're going to be talking about the authority and what we're supposed to do with that, right? So when I opened up this chapter, the very first thing that I saw was a question. So I'm going to start the evening off with that question. What gives you the right to pray? What gives you the right to pray? And we all know that we can pray, and we talk about it all the time. But what gives us the right to pray? Anyone's? Hi, friend. Hi.
We were instructed to do so by God. And so this is not just something that we thought of and said this is something that we want to do. He actually gave us, he said men to pray and always pray and not to faint. And then we have several instances where Jesus gave us a model of prayer. And so we were instructed to do so. And so when God has given us that instruction, that then opens the door for us to be able to step through and carry that thing through.
Amen. Anybody else want to add to that? I bring you the microphone. Oh, I got the quiet crowd today. I don't know. I got the quiet.
I believe that God has given us the authority to pray because that's how we communicate with Him. And you cannot have relationship without communication. And so that's why prayer is so essential. We have given our lives to God, and to get to know Him and get to know how He wants us to live our lives, we have to pray. We have to communicate.
Amen. Amen. So in this very first page, in my book is page 54, he says, what gives you the right to pray? Becoming sure of the answer to that question in your own heart and mind is essential if you want to have an effective prayer life. In the last chapter, we saw that God instituted prayer when He created mankind. Okay? And so prayer is the vehicle by which you are meant to commune with the invisible God. It is the medium through which your spirit is intended to affect and be affected by the will and the purpose of the divine creator. Okay? So in that section, he's saying that this is the purpose of prayer. This is why you're supposed to do it, right? But then in this chapter, we're talking about why we have a right to pray. Now, this is theology heavy, so I'm going to put it in 8th grade kid terms, all right? So roll with me. So if you go back to Genesis, which is the first book of the Bible, what we have is God creating all of the things, and then on the sixth day, he created man, and he gave man instructions. Okay? He said, be fruitful, be multiplied. You have to take dominion over the earth, right? Do what you're supposed to do. And then he was like, cool. And as you continue to read, when he created Adam and Eve, he would come down and he would commune with them directly. I believe it said in the cool of the evening, right? So after they've done their work for the day, he would come and he would talk with them. He would commune with them. They would hang out, okay? Well, when they messed up and ate that piece of fruit that they wasn't supposed to eat, off that tree they wasn't supposed to go be messing with, right? What happened was a couple of things. The first thing that happened was that they gave away the dominion and authority that God had given us in that first chapter around the 26, 27 verse, right? They gave away the dominion that God was talking about. Hi. So then the other thing was that we got disconnected from God. So the way that God was coming down and communing directly with Adam and Eve, they messed that up. So now there's a barrier between man and God, okay? And so now they had to do through the Old Testament, you could see as the Old Testament went on, they had to do a whole bunch of things to be able to talk to God. They had to pray a certain way. It could only be a certain person that went in there, and if that person wasn't right, then they'll fall out and die, and they had to drag them out of there. It had to be certain animals that you had to put on the sacrifice, and it was just a whole lot of stuff, okay? But God already had a plan. Even before Adam and Eve messed up. Because Adam really was supposed to be the person who was our example on the earth about how to be. But he gave it away. He gave away his authority. He gave away his dominion. But God already had a plan for that. He was like, I got an app for that. It's okay. So we get to the New Testament, and here comes Jesus. Amen. So people struggling. They got to wait for the prophet and the priest to tell them what to do in the Old Testament. And sometimes the priest wasn't right. And sometimes the prophet, every once in a while, the prophet was on some, I want to make some money, so it don't matter who I prophesy for or when, where, why, how. And so people was just kind of stuck like Chuck. But then God was like, all right, now that you see how terribly you've messed up, here we go. And so Jesus comes into the earth. Okay? Jesus, in theological terms, became what we call the second Adam, right? So he made the new family tree, so to speak, okay? He came to the earth, and throughout all of the New Testament, you see that Jesus does everything that God asks him to do. Everything. But